So how was, well, yours and your brothers, or both of your guys' childhood? Like, was there a lot of discrimination, like, growing up as a
You
little
mean
kid?
before?
Yeah.
Before the war? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, okay, you put it in context. I came from Hood River. In Hood River, pre-war, before around 1940, there were about 400 people of Japanese ancestry in the Hood River Valley. Hood River Valley is essentially Hood River County. Are you familiar with Hood River? You've been up there and you've seen Hood River? Okay. Well, Hood River, the valley itself is, maybe 20, 25 miles long and 8 miles wide, so it's a pretty compressed area. And that time there may be 12,000, 15,000 people altogether. So we constituted about 4% of the population. That's huge, because before the war, nationally, in the entire United States, we constituted 1/10 of 1% of the population. So, but in Hood River, it was many, many more times that. So, getting back to your question, yes, there was lots of discrimination, and there was a lot of discrimination against the Asians to begin with. And if you're interested, I could tell you about that. But specifically in Hood River, there was the American Legion Post number 22, didn't like the Japanese, so they started about 1919 and formed an anti-Asiatic league. And they were instrumental in helping start that. And from that day, 1919, they were interested in trying to get the Japanese to not, so they couldn't own land. So they pushed for a law called the Alien Land Law in Oregon. And that law said that no person who was not eligible for citizenship can own land. And they were referring mainly to farmland, but also land on houses too. Okay, that didn't pass, but the Legion pushed that through a senator by the name of George C. Wilbur. He was an American Legionnaire, and he was in the Oregon Senate too. So in 1919, Wilbur tried to push that, but it didn't pass. And then in 1921, they tried it again. In 1923, finally that was passed. There was an American Legionnaire named Barge Leonard from Portland, who was an American Legionnaire, and he was also a senator, and he created this law, the Alien Land Law, which made it, in 1923, it became that any alien ineligible for citizenship could not own land. So to get around that law, of course, what the people did was they'd buy land in the names of the minor children, which was legal, because, even a newborn, 6 months old child, if it was my kid, I'd say I'd buy that land in the name of my 6 months old kid. That 6 months old kid owns that land. I don't, but of course I pay for it, but the kid owns it. So that's the way that was gotten around. But before that, it was possible to own land before 1923 because they could do it before then. But that was one of them. Then there was a great agitation about you know anything about picture brides? You don't know that? Okay. All right, well, that's an entirely different subject. So anyway, they agitated against that. Picture bride system was where the Japanese bachelors who wanted to get married, because they were about marriageable age, but they couldn't afford to go back to Japan. So what they did is they send their picture or some friend's picture, or when they were much young, back to somebody back in Japan, a go-between, and they say, hey, find me a bride. And so he'd look around and he'd find a suitable bride. He'd take her picture and then match the picture. He'd say, well, you want to, is your wife? And he'd say, yeah. So they get married by picture marriage. And that was legal in Japan. And it was legal in the United States too, but once they got to the United States, they had to get married on American soil, remarry again. So my father went to Tacoma in 1912 to meet my mother, and they got remarried there because to comply with American law. But that was the sort of thing the people agitated against. And in those days, the Japanese population and the Caucasian population, because in Hood River there were only two populations, Japanese and Caucasian. There was no black. Well, there was one family black, there was one family Jew, no Latinos, and that's it. Otherwise, it's just two colors, yellow and white. So, and at dating age, at the high school age, part when I was growing up, my brothers and sisters never went to a high school dance, proms and things like that. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
But in those days, it wasn't done. No, to my knowledge today, even today, I can't remember ever a single Caucasian boy-girl date. it just didn't happen because of the feeling is you should remain separate. So it must have been kind of like the black situation in the South. No, no white person dated a black girl and vice versa in the South, I imagine. But that's the way it was when I was growing up. Kind of uncomfortable, very uncomfortable feeling because I knew I was different. Couldn't do anything about it.